My name is Amelia Hayes. After my third miscarriage, the silence in the ultrasound room was so loud it felt like a scream. But that's not the moment that broke me. The moment that shattered my world into a million pieces was when my doctor, her face pale, pointed to the grainy black and white screen and said, "Amelia, there's something else here. It isn't a baby. I think it's a clue." That clue would unravel a secret my husband's family had buried for 40 years, a secret that had been slowly destroying my life from the inside out. If you have ever felt broken by a journey that was supposed to be beautiful, then please, stay with me, because my story might just be your story too. And before we go any further, if this resonates with you, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Sharing these hidden stories is how we find our strength. It started, as it always did, with hope. A hope so fragile and fierce it felt like holding a butterfly in my cupped hands. 2 pink lines. My husband Mark and I had been trying for 4 years. 4 years of thermometers, ovulation kits, and scheduled intimacy that felt anything but intimate. 4 years of watching our friends post gender reveals and baby bumps on social media while we held our breath every month praying. The first loss at 8 weeks was a brutal shock. The doctor called it bad luck. The second, at 10 weeks, was a nightmare. They called it recurrent loss and started running tests. By the third time I saw those pink lines, the hope was tangled with a thick, suffocating dread. I didn't let myself get excited. I didn't let myself dream of a nursery or a name. I just waited. The bleeding started on a Tuesday morning, a faint pink tinge that sent a jolt of ice through my veins. Mark was already at work. I called him, my voice trembling. "It's happening again," I whispered. He was home in 20 minutes, his face a mask of helpless anguish. He held me as I cried, not the loud, cathartic sobs of our first loss, but the silent, shoulder-shaking cries of a spirit that was just tired. We went to the hospital, a place that was becoming far too familiar. We already knew what they were going to say, but we had to hear it. We had to have the confirmation. I lay on the crinkly paper of the examination table, my eyes fixed on the ceiling tiles, counting them like I had done twice before. The ultrasound technician was kind but quiet. The silence was the worst part. When you're pregnant, the ultrasound room is filled with sound. The whoosh-whoosh of the baby's heartbeat, the doctor's cheerful commentary. When you're miscarrying, the silence is a physical presence. It presses down on you, confirming your deepest fears before a single word is spoken. Dr. Evans came in, her expression gentle but sad. "I'm so sorry, Amelia," she said softly. "There's no heartbeat." Mark squeezed my hand so tight I thought the bones might crack, but I welcomed the pain. It was a distraction from the gaping emptiness that was opening up inside me. I was getting ready to leave, to go home and climb into bed and let the grief swallow me whole, when Dr. Evans stopped me. "Amelia, can you wait just one moment? I saw something on the scan. I want to take another look, if that's okay." I just nodded, numb. What else could they possibly take from me? This time she wasn't looking for a baby. She was moving the transducer methodically, her brow furrowed in concentration. The screen was a meaningless swirl of gray and black to me. "There," she said, freezing the frame. "Do you see this?" She pointed to a shadowy line, a division that seemed to split my uterus in two. "I think you have a condition called uterine didelphys. It means you were born with a double uterus. It's rare, but it's a known cause of recurrent miscarriage. It creates a much more challenging environment for a pregnancy to thrive." A double uterus. The word sounded alien, like something out of a science fiction movie. My body, the body I had lived in for 32 years, was a stranger to me. It wasn't just bad luck. It was me. I was broken. I was defective. "Is it fixable?" I asked, my voice a croak. She shook her head slowly. "Not with surgery, no. It's congenital. You were born this way. It's often hereditary. Does your mother or any aunts have a history of difficult pregnancies?" The question hung in the air. A clue. The car ride home was silent. Mark tried to be positive. "This is good, right?" "Now we have an answer. Now we have something to work with." But I couldn't see it that way. An answer felt like a diagnosis. A diagnosis felt like a life sentence. That night I called my mom. I told her about the miscarriage, glossing over the details because I couldn't bear to say the words again. Then I asked her the question. "Mom, do you know if anyone in our family ever had, problems? Like with their bodies? Miscarriages?" My mom was quiet for a moment. "Oh, honey, not that I know of. Your grandmother had 5 kids, no trouble at all. And I had you and your brother easy as pie. No, our family is fertile, strong, fertile, strong. The words were meant to be reassuring, but they felt like an indictment. It was just me then. I was the broken branch on a strong family tree. The next day, I had to make the hardest phone call. To Mark's mother, Eleanor. Eleanor Hayes was a character, a woman carved from ice who believed that emotions were a sign of weakness and that appearances were everything. She had raised 2 sons, Mark and his older brother David. David's wife, Chloe, was the daughter-in-law Eleanor had always wanted. Chloe was effortlessly perfect. With 2 cherubic children she seemed to have produced without breaking a sweat. I, on the other hand, was a constant source of quiet disappointment. Eleanor, I started, my throat tight. I'm calling to let you know. We lost the baby. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Not a compassionate pause, a calculating one. I see, she said, her voice crisp and devoid of warmth. Well, Amelia, this is the 3rd one, isn't it? Perhaps you and Mark need to start considering that this just isn't meant to be. I was stunned into silence. Some women, she continued, her voice dropping into a tone of mock sympathy, just aren't built for it. It takes a certain resilience, a certain strength. I felt the blood drain from my face. She was blaming me. She was calling me weak. I stammered something about having to go and hung up the phone, my hand shaking so violently I dropped it on the floor. I curled up on the kitchen tiles, and finally, the loud, gut-wrenching sobs I'd been holding back tore their way out of me. Mark found me there an hour later. When I told him what his mother had said, he was furious. He wanted to call her, to scream at her, but I begged him not to. I didn't have the strength for a family war. It doesn't matter, I lied. Her opinion doesn't matter, but it did. Her words burrowed into the hole in my heart and festered. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. The weeks that followed were a gray blur. I felt like a ghost in my own life. The diagnosis of uterine didelphys spun in my mind. Hereditary. My family was a dead end. I didn't know much about Mark's extended family. Eleanor was the matriarch, and her history was a closed book. According to family lore, she had Mark and David without any issues. She was, in her own words, resilient. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Chloe, my sister-in-law. Hey, Amelia. Hope you're feeling better. Just wanted to let you know Eleanor is hosting a small family brunch on Sunday for my birthday. She's really hoping you'll be there. To, get your mind off things. Get my mind off things. The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. But Mark insisted we go. If we don't, she wins, he said. We just have to show up, smile, and prove her words can't hurt us. So I put on a dress and a fake smile and walked into the lion's den. Eleanor's house was immaculate, filled with the scent of lilies and lemon polish. Chloe was glowing, her 2 kids running around her feet. The brunch was an exercise in torture. Every conversation revolved around children. Chloe's daughter's first ballet recital, her son's first words. It was a world I was desperately trying to enter, and they were all dancing inside while I was locked out, pressing my face against the glass. My lowest point came during dessert. Chloe was opening her presents. Eleanor handed her a small, beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a delicate gold locket. It's for you to put pictures of the children in, Eleanor said, beaming. It's so important to have these little reminders of what truly matters in a woman's life. A legacy. Then she looked directly at me. Her eyes weren't angry. They were filled with a cold, detached pity that was 1,000 times worse. Not all of us are blessed enough to leave a legacy, she said, her voice just loud enough for the whole table to hear. Some lines. Just end. The air crackled. Mark stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. Mom, that's enough. But I couldn't breathe. The room was closing in on me. The locket, the children, the word legacy, it all merged into a wave of pure agony that crashed over me. I pushed my chair back, mumbled an apology, and fled. I ran out of the house, ignoring Mark's calls, and got into my car. I drove aimlessly, tears streaming down my face, blurring the road ahead. I was broken. I was defective. My body was a failure, and now my own family was treating me like I was cursed. I pulled into a deserted park, the engine still running, and just screamed. I screamed until my throat was raw, letting out all the pain, the frustration, the injustice of it all, sitting there, spent and empty. The doctor's words echoed in my head. Hereditary, congenital, a clue. My family was a dead end. But what about Mark's? Eleanor's carefully curated story of effortless motherhood. What if it was a lie? A desperate, wild idea sparked in the darkness of my mind. Eleanor kept everything. Decades of photo albums, trinkets, letters, all stored in the attic. An idea, so crazy and intrusive it scared me, began to form. I needed to see. I drove back to the house. The party was over. Only Mark's car was in the driveway. I walked in. He was in the living room, on the phone, arguing fiercely with his mother. He saw me and his face softened. "I'll call you back," he snapped and hung up. He rushed to me, wrapping me in his arms. "I'm so sorry, Ames. I'm never letting her speak to you like that again." "Mark," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I want to see your baby pictures." He looked confused. "What, now?" "Yes, now. Your mom keeps them in the attic, right? I need a distraction. I need to see you when you were little and happy. Please." He was hesitant, but he saw the desperate plea in my eyes and nodded. He led me up the creaky stairs to the attic. The air was thick with the smell of dust and time. Boxes were stacked everywhere, labeled in Eleanor's neat, precise script. Baby photos, Mark. School reports, David. While Mark sifted through a box of albums, I began my own search. I moved toward the back, into the dimmest corner of the attic, pretending to look for more photos. Behind a stack of old suitcases, I saw it. A small, dark wood chest. It had no label. It was covered in a thick layer of dust, as if it hadn't been touched in decades. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Mark, look at this old thing," I called out, trying to keep my voice light. "Maybe there are old family pictures in here." He came over as I lifted the heavy lid. It wasn't full of photos. It was full of papers. Old yellow documents. My hand trembled as I reached inside. The first thing I pulled out was a medical file. I opened it. The name at the top wasn't mine. It was Eleanor Hayes. My blood ran cold. I scanned the pages, my eyes catching on medical terms I now knew all too well. Recurrent spontaneous abortion. Infertility investigation. And then I saw it. A diagnosis, typed out on a flimsy sheet of paper dated 1981. Patient presence with classic indications of uterine didelphys. The world stopped spinning. Eleanor. It was her. She had the exact same condition as me. The woman who called me weak, who told me I wasn't built for it, had fought the exact same invisible war inside her own body. Mark was reading over my shoulder, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief. "I don't understand," he whispered. She told me she had us so easily. It was all a lie. Her perfect matriarch persona was a carefully constructed fortress built to hide a devastating secret. But that wasn't all. At the very bottom of the chest, beneath the medical files, was a small bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon. I untied it. The letter on top was from a woman named Carol, who I recognized as Eleanor's estranged sister. The letter was dated 50 years ago. My eyes scanned the delicate, faded handwriting. "My dearest Ellie," it began, "I can't stop thinking about you. I know you feel like your world has ended. Losing a child is an agony no one should ever know, especially not that far along. To carry him for 6 months, to feel him kick, only for him to be born sleeping. It's an unspeakable cruelty of nature. I know you blame yourself. I know you blame your body. But it is not your fault. This condition, this body you were given, it does not make you any less of a woman. It does not make you weak. Please don't let this pain turn you to stone. Please, Ellie, don't close your heart. A stillbirth, a baby boy at 24 weeks. A trauma so profound, so devastating, that Eleanor hadn't just buried it. She had entombed it. She had built a new personality over it, a hard, impenetrable shell of strength and judgment. Her cruelty towards me. It was never about me. It was a horrifying projection of her own self-hatred. Every time she looked at me, she saw her younger self, broken, grieving, and ashamed. Her insults weren't meant to wound me. They were the echoes of the words she had been screaming at herself for 40 years. In that dusty attic, holding a letter from half a century ago, I didn't feel hatred for Eleanor. I felt a wave of profound, earth-shattering pity. The clue on the ultrasound hadn't just led me to a diagnosis. It had led me to the truth. We went home. I didn't know what to do. How do you confront someone with a pain they have hidden their entire life? A few days later, Eleanor called Mark, demanding an apology from him for his outburst. Mark told her we would come over to talk. When we walked into her living room, she was standing by the fireplace, her back ramrod straight. "Mark, I am still waiting for you to acknowledge your disrespectful behavior," she started, not even looking at me. This time I didn't shrink. I didn't run. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Eleanor," I said, my voice quiet but firm. She turned, her eyes flashing with irritation. "What is it, Amelia?" "I know about your uterine didelphys," I said. The effect was instantaneous. The color drained from her face. Her perfect composure, her armor cracked right down the middle. She looked like she had been struck by lightning. "And I know about the son you lost," I continued, my voice softening. "The one you carried for 6 months. The one you never got to bring home." A strangled sound escaped her lips. Her hand flew to her mouth, and for the first time in the 5 years I had known her, I saw the ice melt. Her face crumpled, and a sob, a ragged 40-year-old sob, tore from her chest. Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the sofa, her body shaking with a grief so old it was practically fossilized. Mark rushed to her side, and I followed. We sat with her as she cried for what felt like hours. She told us everything. The shame, the feeling of being a failure as a woman in an era when that was your primary purpose. The way she and her husband never spoke of the baby again, pretending it never happened. The terror she felt during her high-risk pregnancies with David and Mark, terrified that every day would be the day she lost them too. She had built her identity on being strong because she felt so fundamentally weak and broken. And seeing me, going through the same exact struggle, it triggered her buried trauma. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to push away the reflection of her own deepest pain. That day didn't magically fix our relationship. But it broke the cycle of trauma. For the first time, we talked, really talked. Eleanor, stripped of her armor, was just a woman who had suffered an unimaginable loss and never healed. With her history and my diagnosis, we found a new specialist, one who had experience with high-risk pregnancies resulting from uterine didelphys. We finally had a real plan, a path forward, illuminated by a secret that was brought to light. It is still a difficult journey, but for the first time in a very long time, I am not walking it alone. I have my husband, and surprisingly, I have my mother-in-law, who now calls me every week, not with judgment, but with a quiet, knowing understanding. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this is that the trauma we don't transform, we inevitably transfer. The secrets we keep, the pain we bury, it doesn't just disappear. It seeps out like poison and hurts the people we love. Facing the truth, no matter how terrifying, is the only path to healing, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that come after us. My body was never the problem. The silence was. And now I want to ask you, have you ever discovered a family secret that completely changed your perspective on someone you thought you knew? Share your story in the comments below. Your truth could be the clue that someone else needs to find their own.